Welcome to Mini Modernz. My name's Simone and thank you for joining me on my tiny corner on the miniature web where we're here to think big, build small. So let's get into it. So today is going to be part one of my Halloween diorama. I'm going to be working on a haunted, abandoned cabin in the woods. Ooh, sounds like a lot, right? It's my first time trying a diorama, so I'm really excited to do this. My channel is dedicated to making modern miniatures, but anytime there's a festive season and I kind of want to jump in, you might find some little random videos popping up like this one here. So guys, I hope that you enjoy it. I hope you get something out of it, and let me know in the comments what was your best part, and make sure that you stay tuned for part two as well. Let's go, guys. Right, so to get started, I'm going to be using my miniature prompt journal. This is a book that I actually created myself as a way to kind of try new things and keep a log of anything that I've tried. It is available on Amazon for anyone who wants to try it out themselves. It's just really handy way to keep a log of what you're doing. So today I'm going to be doing prompt 2, which is a wall. And for this diorama, it's going to be a nice Halloween abandoned rundown wall. So we're going to have a window, door. Here's a quick drawing, please do not laugh. It was just, you know, want to get something down on paper, so that's what I did. With this drawing, you can take a copy of it or you can draw it into your book, then cut it out and stick it as your reference picture, and then we'll take one at the end to see what we've actually come up with. So that's really handy way of keeping log of things. And this dollhouse notebook is also available on Amazon as well. It's just a nice way to keep all of your work together. So how this works is obviously you choose the prompt that you want. In this book there's over 100 to choose from. You write your start date, the end date, obviously when you finish. You stick your picture in of your design and your ideas, what scale you'll be using and what materials you'll be using. So you can come back to this at the end when you've got more of an idea of what you're going to be using, and we can jump straight into the project. So the main material that I'm going to be using is white foam board to do this project. This piece here is going to be the back wall that's going to have the door and the window on it. So what you want to do is get it measured up. I'm going to leave a gap at the bottom, about 2 inches is where the porch is going to be. And also here I've got a piece for the base. So this will go together just like this, and the porch will go on top, again measured up to you can choose whatever measurements you want, but for this project it's 250 millimeters, and this will be the size of the porch. Before we begin the exciting part of making our wall, first I'm going to actually make the box that our diorama will be sitting in. So we've got the length of the wall that we want, and I'm just going to use some 5mm foam board just to measure a slight gap that I want to leave for the size of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up 4 pieces of this grey craft board, really nice and simple, so that we can have ourselves a lovely box. With the box made and our pieces cut, we can now make the window and door. I've made these templates already, so I can just cut them out, stick them on, cut them out. Yes, my instructions are for 5-year-olds. Easy to understand. I also made these mini models to help me keep everything in scale, but I'll show you how I did these in a next video. So here I'm just using the original templates that I made of my window and door. I'm simply going to just draw around them and then cut them out so it looks like this. We are steaming ahead now, guys. So we've got our door and our windows cut out. So now I'm going to make the wood paneling on the front of this diorama, and I'm just going to use some coffee stirrers for this. I'm just going to cut them up and just pretty much just stick them on so it looks a little something like this. Now with the wood paneling done, we can get on with the next stage, which is getting this looking rusty, dusty, dirty and old. So what I used is the back of my blade just to kind of chip up the coffee stirrers a bit, just leave some gaps, shave some pieces off. You can go crazy with this and get it as messed up as you want. And for this old wooden cabin, I think this will look really nice just to rough it up however you choose. Then we're just going to sand this down just to get those edges not even smoothed out so much, just but evened up a little bit where we've cut them. I wanted to add another layer of protection to the back of this diorama wall, so I added some more grey craft board to the back of it, just cut out where the windows would be. I should have actually cut more for the door frame as well, but I do add that on in a minute. So once the window's cut out, we're going to hit that with a nice little layer of glue and then add our front wall to it, and then if we got something fabulous, darling. Once I've got that on there, I'll leave it to set for a little bit, and then I'm going to add the rest of the craft board, so we've got the door entrance covered as well. So it should look like this, where we've got an extra protection for the back and extra little bit of thickness for the door, because the door's not going to be opening or functional, but we still want it sturdy. And now I'm going to just start adding some cleanings around the edges, around the side, just using some of the grey craft board again. We're going to get that nice glued stuck on there. So we've got ourselves a nice little frame around our wooden panel. And again, I love using this craft board. It's so simple to use and it's really just handy and cheap. Most of the stuff that I'm building with as well, it's stuff that I've had around the house, a few little bits and pieces. As I'm new to miniatures, I do not have much, so I'm working with what I've got. And these coffee stirrers, baby, they are a lifesaver. So I'm going to use these again to make the inner frame for my window and the outer frame, just to again clean this up before we get it dirty. And there we go. It just looks really nice. It just fits in there really nice, and we're ready to get this thing messy, guys. This is the part that I've been waiting for. So with the frame and the window edges looking cleaner, it's time, guys. I'm going to give this a dirty wash. This is my first ever time doing this, and I'm going to go ahead and just I'm not winging it. I have watched a lot of videos, but I'm going to use these two colours here, lamp black and burnt umber, to give me the dirty wash. And I'm really happy with how this turns out. It's something new, as I'm generally going to be doing a lot of modern builds in the future, but I did want to get on board with the festive Halloween season, and I'm going to try and do that as often as possible. I'm going to do my Modernz, but in the middle, if there's a festive season or there's something I can get involved in, I'll definitely try. So here I'm going to go ahead and do a dirty wash, but before I start, I'm going to give it a wet wash first. What? I'm not actually sure if a wet wash is a thing, but I'm calling it a thing. I'm literally just using water and putting it on the wood because I was hoping that that would absorb some of the paint a little bit more. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if this is a thing or not, but I thought, let me just get this wet and now we can go in with the dirty wash. I like the way this colour has turned out, and I think it's perfect for the base of what we're trying to do. This was once a modern, beautiful white cottage in the woods, and now it's an abandoned, rundown, horrible place, and that's the effect that we're going to try and go for. So we're going to give it a layer of this wash and see how it looks afterwards. So far, I really like this with the wood chip-ins and the extra glue left on there to bring out different textures of the wood. I think it's really given that effect. I could have just left it at that if I wanted it like this, but I do want it to be white and run down. Right, and now we're going to go in with some acrylic paint. You've got to use the titanium white. This one isn't very thick, so I'm going to do a couple of layers of this to get the colour that I want, and you'll see what I mean right now. It's I'm just using any old brushes. I think the more I get into this, the more brushes and collections and things I'll get. Right now it's equipment that I've already had around, so I don't have anything fancy here, guys. I will get there, I will. But if you can see, it's not very thick. So I know there's different types of acrylic paint, but this one, it kind of worked because as I said, I want the white paint to look old and worn, and this acrylic one, it gives it that nice almost see-through feel. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and start with the base of the house, which is going to be the foundation. I wanted this to be like a strong, or once was a strong stone concrete type of support for the house, which has just rotted and worn away with time. So I'm just using my blade here just to chip it up, cut it up, make it look messy and unkept is the look that we're trying to go for. Again, this is all my first time trying any of this stuff here, and I'm winging it. I'm just going with what I feel would look like what I imagine an old cabin in the woods to look like, but it, as I said, it was once modern, so this would have been really nice white with a stone base, but not anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with some grey, different tones of grey to give a nice stone texture. This part of the base won't actually, this part of the house won't actually be seen because it's actually going to be underneath the porch, but it was a good way for me to try and see how to make concrete and stone textures. So I do go over this a few times with different layers and textures, and you'll see later on that it keeps on evolving and changing, and it's a good thing for me to learn for future references. Like, for example, at the moment it's something that I would use for like a stone bathroom floor or something like that, you know. It's got different tones going on, but I do go in there with a sponge and some white paint just to bring out some highlights. And again, I am just winging this. I'm just going by eye and just seeing what works and what doesn't work, and at the same time working at the top of it as well to add layers of paint to the wood. And I'm just going to keep going until I've got the textures that I want so far. So whilst the wall is drying, I've got some wooden dowels here that I'm going to cut for my base of the porch, what's going to hold the porch up. So I'm just going to cut these. I only need 2 of them really, because the rest of the porch is actually going to be stuck to the wall. So whilst I'm waiting for things to dry, I'm just going to go ahead and get these chopped up and show you what it actually roughly should look like. Here are my pieces, and here is what it looks like roughly on the diorama. After giving my wall a few more coats of my acrylic white paint, I'm quite happy with the colour now. I think I did about 3 coats of acrylic paint, the titanium white, and I actually like that. And now I'm going to add a little bit more highlights to the concrete. As I said, the concrete's not going to be shown, but for practice sakes, I'm really happy that I tried this out, and I like the idea of the house being on concrete. And I'm just again winging it, using some textures, seeing what I can come up with, and I'm really happy with it. Now the paint has dried, I'm going to take my blade again and go in and chip up the wood some more, because it is still looking a little bit too clean for what I am going for. So I think it's a good idea as well to do the 2 layers of what do we call this, hardship to the wood. So we do it before we put the paint on, and we do it afterwards, and I think it just gives it that nice extra texture of the paint actually chipping away. It just gives it something unique. And also sellotape. Again, I was just winging it. I figured, you know, you grab some sellotape, whip it across, and again it gives it that nice little chipped up bit of paint that's come off. These are just very small details, but it does give it that effect and that texture of worn out, worn away wood. I played around with some samples of dark washes as well to give the wood, because now it's time to make the wood look like it has had water damage, it's torn away, and you know, and I feel like they've got the right kind of tone. So I just started off with a small amount to see if that's what I wanted to do. So I give it the wash, and then I hit it with the baby wipes. I always have them on hand because I have babies and it's really handy just to, you know, wipe off any excess that you don't need, and it really gives it that nice dirty messed up look. So here I'm just going to go ahead and give this a wash and give it a mess and really make it look like this house has been through the mills. It's seen better days. I'm definitely not going easy on the dirty wash here. I feel like I am going to attack, you know, once you start you can't stop, and sometimes you're like, am I doing too much, am I doing enough? But the vision that I wanted, it was like the sides of the wall were a lot more dirty than the middle, because the middle we're going to have a bay window that kind of protected it a little bit more, but we'll get onto that. But you can see right now this looks like it has absolutely been through the mills. And again, I'm going to give it some light dusting of the dry brushing to get more of the concrete textures. And I've had a lot of fun messing with these textures and tones, and I look forward to doing more in the future. Now to make some flocking. First time again, but I had some sawdust left over from my ex-hamster. The best way I found to do with this, blend it, sieve it, bake it, paint it. That's how I got mine. As this was such a strenuous job, I enlisted the help of my 6-year-old daughter, who was more than happy to help. Minnie miniature crafter in the making. So she helped me get the paint that we would need for the grass, while I went ahead and made the paint that we'd need for the soil. Just mixing the only colors that I have of paint and just trying to get the consistency that I wanted until I was happy. We just whipped that up, got a few nice consistencies, and then we added the sawdust to the paint, and it turned out absolutely fantastic. I just threw this into the oven to make sure it was baked well before serving, and voila, it was good to go. As I said, I used my sieve to get some different textures and consistencies and made some different colors as well. We're going to check those out in a little while. And now it's time to make our windows. I'm going to use these templates. It's going to be a casement window that you can open and close, and I'm going to be using craft board, the grey craft board, to make these windows. So let's cut these out and get the shapes ready. Easy. Now I've scored along the line so that we can fold this, so we got our own little box, shall we say. So this is going to be the case that holds our window frames, and we're going to have to cut out the piece in the middle here. This is where we're going to have our actual frames itself, and we're going to cut another piece on top to seal the frames inside. Let me show you exactly what I mean. This here will go on top of the frame that we just did, and then we're going to have the actual windows. It's sandwiched in the middle. You get what I mean? I know you get what I mean. So our window frames will be put on the base, just like this, and I'm going to have them propped up a little bit. Well, one of them propped up a little bit so it can slide up and down. So I'm going to use some of the craft board to make some little stability posts, is what I want to call them. Just making up random names as we go along. So I'm going to make 2 of these at 2 different heights and then press them on top of each other as little stumps / stabilities. So the larger piece would be stuck onto the frame like this, and then I'm going to add a slightly smaller piece on top, and that's just to give it a little bit of movement so we can have different levels that the window will stop at. So we're just going to stick those together and do it on both sides and just make sure that the window sits nice and flush on top. So let's get these stuck down. Let me just give you a close-up of what I mean. So they're stuck down. You can see in between the gap there, we've got the little stumps. Hopefully you can see that. But now we're just going to test and make sure the window frames sit in place. So we're going to have one that is going to be stuck at the top, and the bottom one is going to be the movable one that we have on our little stumps. And now we can close these frames together, and there's our first window. Of course, we need to add the glass, which I'll be using plastic for as well. But just a quick test, make sure this is going to work before I glue it. And perfect. Let's go. Like a glove, baby. Like a glove. Now I'm going to make 2 more of these. So we've got 3 in total. And then I'm going to paint them. I'm going to paint them with gesso as my base coat. And then I'm going to hit it up with a few different tones of brown for a nice deep dark wood. Gesso. Now with everything painted, I'm going to show you how we just stick this together. This side we've got our little stoppers. You put the window stuck down on top, and then we're going to have a window resting on our stoppers. And then we're just going to close this together. Just put some glue around the edges of your top layer and stick it together. It's literally as simple as that. And this little bad boy is so cute. If you notice, I have got 4 little slabs at the top left there. Those are going to be used as our bay window supporters. So let's go ahead and get this all stuck together. It's so exciting. So here it is, guys. Here it is. And with the gesso underneath, it really helps the textures. I only use the two colors, the burnt umber and the lamp black, but with the gesso, it really helped the streaks of the wood come together. And now we're going to stick these together using my, I'm not sure what we call these, base stoppers. Yeah, I just come up with things, don't I? But yeah, we're going to put these in place so that the windows can actually form the shape that we want. So I'm going to stick these posts in between the 2 windows here. And it's really simple to do. I used again my grey craft board These were about 15 millimeters wide. I did 5mm strips and just folded them over, just scored them, folded them over, and it's going to help our windows get some movement. So we're going to stick these on the middle window, is going to have it on either side, and then we've got 2 spares that are going to be the post for our window once it's on the wall, and I'm going to actually show you that and how it all looks together. But first I'm going to let these dry, got to get the glue cleaned up, and then I'm going to make the sill that the actual bay window is going to sit on as well. So while that's drying, I'm going to use some of the homemade flock that we made earlier to create some vines, and also we're going to try and dirty up the wall a bit and get this showing the road. I'm going to use some of this hemp rope, which is really cool. I've had it here in my stash for other projects and never got to use it, so I'm excited to use it now. And it comes in a few layers, so you can actually pull this apart as thick or as thin as you want, go crazy with it. So all I simply do is pull this apart, get it lathered up and messied up with wood glue, and then throw on my flock. As I said, this is my first time doing all of this stuff, so I am really winging it, but I had lots of fun doing this, and you can get really creative, use as little or as much as you want. So as I said, stick it in your wood glue and go crazy. Fill this up, make as many as you want, and then once this is dried, we're going to add this to our project. These are looking really nice. I'm going to leave them for a little bit longer. I'm going to add some more flock to the wall to get it really grimy and dirty, and then add the windows, and then we can add these bad boys. So now we're going to add the moss effect. I'm going to add some here, and a little bit over here. So while everything's drying and setting, I've got my bay windows as a template to see exactly where I want my sill to go, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut this out and get this all stuck together. I'm going to go ahead and make 2 of these, one for the top and one for the bottom, and then get my bay window stuck on there, and then we're going to do the fun part of sticking it to the window. So now I've got the bottom part stuck on, and I'm just going to gauge exactly where I want it on the window, just make sure that I have it in the right place. And I am really happy with how this is turning out, guys. And also we've got the little side panels to put on as well. It's going to give it a little bit more extra depth and make it pop a little bit, and then we can go ahead and stick the top part of the sill as well. Yay, bay window! With the window finally assembled, I can go up here with my best friend Gesso. We're going to paint the sill white, and then we're going to get it nice and dirty with a dirty wash. I wanted to try a murky green wash as well to put over the moss that I've already put on there to bring a bit of realism to it. So I'm just going to dabble over with the green wash, a dirty wash, and really just mix and blend and try and bring out some more texture. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do this. Just enjoying it is what I'm doing at the moment. Just the dirty side of things to really murk things up. It's great, guys. I'm having a whale of a time. This abandoned house is really starting to take shape, and I'm so happy because it was just a vision, and when you see it come to life, it's like, yeah, I'm seeing the grime, I'm seeing the dirt, hard times. And once I feel satisfied that I've got enough grime and dirt on the windowsill, I want to try and take on the windows and give it a kind of a moldy, grimy, dirty effect as well. So I go in with the green wash on the brown just to bring out some of that mold, and I think it does quite all right. But always remember, once you put it on, just dab it off as well. You don't really want to have too much on there, but when it dries, it does dry a little bit lighter, so you do have some leeway. But let's get this grimy, guys. It's an old, worn out, abandoned, haunted house. We need to bring this to life. I'm getting stuck in there now with the dry brush with the white paint, and just to really chip up the wood a bit and give it that extra texture, really make it look worn out and torn. And I go ahead and give a dry brush to the bottom of the stone as well, just to bring out some of those extra textures, you know, feelings and concrete and the wood together, and just bring it all together. So now I'm really happy with the amount of aging that we've got on the wall. We can actually add our vines, and these came out really good as well. I did several little strands, and I just want to get this stuck on the window to give it a nice effect of the vines obviously growing up the wall, going across the window to give it that nice effect. And then we're going to stick some more vines across the top of the sill, maybe draping down the side. I'm using wood glue as well to stick everything together. That's been the main thing I've been using for this whole project. So that really it's just been foam board, craft board, and rope so far is what we've been using, with a little bit of wood for the dowels. But everything has been things you can probably find around your house. If you've got pets, you might have some sawdust, or you can just get a bag of that for cheap. And then here we are, guys. The window is looking great. I'm going to add some more of these vines. I'm also going to add a bit more dirt and grime and chip work to the sill. As you can see, I've done some here, I've got some dirt on there, I've chipped up the wood a bit. I'm going to add some more flock to the top of this sill, and now we're going to get ourselves some cobwebs. I just use some cotton batting and just pull it apart, and then keep on pulling it until it's really, really thin, and as thin as you can possibly get it. So really take your time with this, don't rush it, because it does tear quite quickly and easily, but you do want to pull it enough so it resembles a real cobweb. Just keep pulling and threading until you feel like you've got the right size for yourself. So far that's a bit too thick for me. Yeah, too thick. I'm going to pull some more of that part. Don't worry about it. Just be really gentle, because you still want to keep its shape, but you just don't want it too big. You want it as realistic as possible, and then get your wood glue and stick that on there. Voila, cobwebs. And once the glue's set as well, you don't see any of the clumps in there, so it will look really effective. I'm going to add some more cobwebs in the inner window, I think, as well. Yeah. I feel inspired to make a bird's nest, so I'm going to give it a go. So I'm just going to fold up some paper a couple of times, and then I'm going to use my wood glue to secure it and stick it together. Once that's stuck together, I'm just going to cut the strip, and then cut the strip again in half. We want this to be about maybe 2 inches in length. I think that would be a perfect length for a bird's nest. And then once we've got that, we stick it together again to form a little circle, and then we're going to start adding our rope, our little strands of rope that we pulled apart earlier. We're going to go ahead, add some glue to that, and stick it all the way around our nest. So we end up with this nesty mess. So now we're just going to weave the rest of the rope that's out and just push it into the nest, and then we're going to get some sticks and put those inside the nest and some at the bottom as well, just to give it a bit more authenticity. Just push these all the way around. It is a bit of a messy job, it's a finicky job, but it's kind of worth it at the end. I'm just breaking some real twigs here because I think it just actually looks really nice, and they're actually dried and dead already. So I'm going to put these at the bottom and just fill the rest of this in, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint this again with some of the colours I used before. Just going to be using my burnt umber and lamp black, the same colours that I've pretty much been using for most of this project. Oh, isn't this just adorable? I am so happy with this. Yay! Now we need to find your home. There. Now I'm really stepping into the world of unknown. 1, polymer clay. 2, I'm making a crow, and things that I've never used before. I think I've got everything prepared. This here is what I'm going to use for the eyes. It's supposed to be like, almost like, not silicone, but almost dry as like plastic. Yeah, I'm just going for it, guys. This clay is my daughter's, by the way, so I owe her some. So I'll have to get her some more. She's 6 years old, but she's very crafty and talented, and I'm always nicking her things. I will eventually get my own. I have told her that. And whilst I'm here as well, I've actually set up a Patreon. I know I'm new to this, but anyone who does want to support me along this journey, I will be so appreciative of it, because there's so much to learn and take in, and obviously buy as well. And I really want to do this full time. So I will leave a link in the description to all of my socials, all the places that you can find me, and hopefully you can catch up there as well. Back to the crow. Now this really did take some time, but guys, we got there. Look, little crow. I put it in the oven to bake with his mate, and I'm really super happy with how this turned out. It was first attempt, and I'm thrilled. I'll definitely be doing more with polymer clay in the future as well. And this stuff right here for the eyes, it's really great. Cern relief. It's, as I said, it comes out like a little bead. I can't wait to use that on other projects as well, just to see what else we can do with it. I caught these little buggers trying to escape. They've only been alive a few moments and they're already causing havoc. Get back in. Now it's time to make the door. I'm just going to cut out this template and leave a section at the top where it says window, leave that open, cut through on the craft board that we've got there and an extra craft board that we're going to be using. So it's going to be like double 3 layers thick. So it looks something like this. And I will be adding some plastic for the back for the window. I've got the gesso on there and I'm going to age it the same way that I did to the window. So we get something that looks a bit like this. Perfect. Now for a little knob, a door knob that is. We're just going to go ahead and stick that on. That's just a little bead, a bead that I found around the house. I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I need this. So we're going to add the doorknob on here, and you can see I aged it in exactly the same way that we did the window. The brown, the gesso, the dust, the cobwebs, it's all there. I'm going to also add a little bit of paint to the doorknob or handle, whichever you prefer to call it, and just to age that up as well. And oh look, how quaint. And then we're going to get ourselves a little mailbox or letterbox on there as well. I'm simply just going to use some foil to put that on there. Now with the front wall complete, we can start working on actually making this wall stand up by itself and be able to fit inside the box that we created right at the beginning. So here are the 3 pieces that we're going to add to the side and to the bottom of this wall. Now the wall can stand by itself. The ladies wanted to have a cheeky peek. Whilst the ladies were snooping, I went ahead and painted my grey craft board for the porch with gesso. Also more coffee stirrers that are going to be the wooden planks going across. And I also painted some steps because we can't forget about that either. For a test run, I attached my porch to the wall just to make sure that everything fit and worked well. I just used some hot glue so I can pull that off anytime that I want. But I just wanted to make sure this all worked. So I just use a little bit of foam just to stick along the edge, and that part will connect to the actual wall. When I do this properly, I'll stick it down solidly with some wood glue and maybe hot glue as well. I'm going to go ahead and use my wooden dowels just to make sure that everything fits perfectly. As I said, I can take it off. This is just a test run. After doing the dry run and seeing exactly where things will go, I know I need to trim a little bit off the edge of these steps, but then everything is pretty much good to go. I'm now happy with the size of the steps, so I'm going to get everything prepped. I'm going to just add the steps on top using my infamous wood glue, and then we're going to give this a nice coat of paint and let it set while we get on with the rest of this porch. I add a little support beam to the stairs using some coffee stirrers. I just stick 2 of them together and then put them along the middle of the back of these stairs, so it looks like the stairs are not floating in midair, even though they are pretty much like floating steps. Once I'm happy with the alignment and size of the steps, I can go ahead and paint this with my infamous mix of burnt umber and lamp black. Once that's done, I'm going to let it set and dry in preparation to put on the porch. I have added my coffee stirrers to the deck of the porch, and now I've connected the porch to the wall. I've also put my wooden dowels around the porch for extra support. So we are ready now to paint this and give it some wear and tear like the rest of this diorama. I go over my gesso with my usual mix of burnt umber and lamp black, and then I gradually get this a little bit lighter to have a different contrast in colours, so the wood tones are not going to be the same all the way through. So you'll see me changing from the natural dark wood here, and then we're gradually going to go ahead and get lighter and rustier and give it a really nice worn out look. I removed the porch away from the wall so I can get a bit more control on how much of the weathering I do without always having to lift up the wall. I know that it all fits fine, so I can reassemble it at any time. Plus I need to do the base, and I want to be able to do that without it being all finicky trying to get underneath. So now I'm just adding some green paint and wiping it away, and we'll just keep staining it gradually, adding some greens, wiping it away, and just really getting this to look a little bit more worn with wear and tear. While the porch is drying and taking shape, it's time to make the actual base of this diorama. So I kind of went a bit heavy on the black here, but I'm going to use the black and Mod Podge and mix it together to make a firm kind of primer. I kind of just went all out and a bit crazy on this, but it's fine, it's fine. So I'm just going to use the black lamp paint and Mod Podge just to give this a secure base to work on. I feel like black will be better when I'm trying to work on ground. I don't want to see any white bits popping through, so I'm going to just go ahead and get this full and let it set. Right, now that it's completely dry, I can go ahead and use some foil to make some imprints and extra textures in this. Half of this will be underneath the porch, so you won't really be able to see much of it. You know, we've got a little bit to work with in terms of groundwork, but I still want the top half to be concrete, and the bottom half is where we're going to have our flocking that we made earlier, our grass, our old grass, our soil, and we're just going to make this look as really groundy as possible. But first I'm going to go ahead and try and make concrete. I'm going to use my sponge and some white paint just to dab along the top, just to get some textures. I'm not going to use any brush strokes for this. It's literally just going to be dry dab with the sponge, using different colors and just seeing what works well for me. I definitely want to leave as much bumps on this as possible. If you can see all the little bubbles and imprints, I think that'll make really good textures. So I'm going to do a layer of this, let it set, work on the bottom, come back to it. You know how it goes. So for this bottom section here, I'm going to go ahead and add some flocking. And again, this is the first time I'm ever doing anything like this. So I'm going to be adding my wood glue. Then I'm going to add different layers of flock, so you can see some of the grass where it's worn out, some where it's dried, some where it's just soil. Really just play around with this until I get the desired effect. I get rid of any excess that I don't need, and I can use that for future projects, and then just let that dry and set while I go back to working on the concrete. And I'm going to go back and forth between the two, just to filling it up, getting the textures, getting the layers that I want. I'm rotating between dark and light greys for the concrete here, just to show different contrasts, because you never get it just one color, and then hitting it with some white highlights again. And all in all, I feel like it's coming along quite well. Unfortunately, it's going to be underneath the porch, but what can you do? I'm going to use some of the rope to make some tall, dry, dead grass, and I'm just going to use hot glue. Just fold it in half and find anything that you can use really to stick it on. I know you can use it like on baking paper and it kind of peels off quite nice, but I actually want a cardboard underneath as a base, so I'm going to make a few of these, just stick them down. You can paint them if you want. In my case, I'm going to just leave it like this because I want it like dead grass. I'm going to make a few of these and then we're going to go ahead and stick them on. I'm just going to stick it down with the wood glue. That's why I wanted to do it on cardboard, so I had something a bit more solid to grip onto. And I'm going to just stick this down and then use some of the flock we made earlier just to cover up any of the bits and pieces that you don't want to see. And I'm only going to do a few of these because I don't have that much space to work with, but it's really effective, really cool, and you can see that the grass is dead. And make sure that it fits right when I put my porch back on. I'm really happy with that. I also added some real little twigs and sticks as well to go along with it. And also I've got some dead dry plants already that I had. Me and my daughter went out collecting some plants ages ago for something, and he had some really nice little dead ones that work perfect for this, so I'll go ahead and use those as well. Now it's time for some lighting. Eek! I've never done this before, so wish me luck. I'm going to be using some battery operated lights and hope for the best. I'm going to drill some holes, poke some things, and hopefully get some lights. One thing I know, I want lights above the door, lights behind the window, lights on the porch, and lights wrapped around a tree that we're soon to have. And now that I've figured out where I want my lights, it's time to colour my lights to give them the ambiance I'm looking for. So I'm going to go with orange for the porch because that's where I'm going to have my pumpkins, red for inside to give it that misty effect, and green to wrap around my tree. Now with my lights coloured and in place, it's time to add some details from inside the house. So I wanted a little shadow by the window. I'm going to make a little ledge and place one of my paper dolls, which has been painted with my Mod Podge and black paint. Then I'm going to add some curtains. Now going back to that box that we made in the beginning, basically I need to pull the whole thing apart, but first I carved a hole in the back because this is where we are going to access our light. I'm going to put wallpaper on this and also really make it all musty and dusty and crusty if we can, you know. Wallpaper is available actually in my Etsy store if you want to purchase this for yourself. I've got this in a variety of different colours. And on the sides I'm going to be painting them with gesso and then trying painting for the first time ever. Please help me. So with my perfectly nice wallpaper placed then trashed, I'm now ready to add a wall border. I just place my coffee stirrers at the bottom where I want the border to go and then paint the rest of it white. And we are going to leave it at that for part 1, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a real learning, a lot of learning and techniques for myself. I hope you guys got something from this yourself. Stay tuned for part 2 where we're going to bring this all together, add in the accessories and get this show on the road. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe.